What's up guys, Nick here again, and in this video I'm going to show you how sellers like us conduct our keyword research when launching a new product. Before we get into the details, I want to spend some time explaining why this part of the pre-launch phase is just so important. So to start, it's really crucial to first really understand Amazon's search algorithm process. It's ultimately called the A9 algorithm. We'll be constantly revisiting this concept in further detail in both the product launch and the optimization modules, but I'll touch on it first here. So we've kind of mentioned how Google is a search engine for information. Amazon works in the same way as a search engine for products all around the world. Just like how Google provides users with the data that they're looking for, Amazon's business is completely built on providing the most relevant results to customers who are searching for products on their platform. People come to Google for information, and by people I mean shoppers, come to Amazon to shop. That's why the more successful your product becomes on Amazon, the higher you will rank. Amazon actually wants successful products to rank better because the sales history is proof that the product is relevant to searches. Now, as you'll see later through this course, Amazon actually attributes a relevancy percentage for your listing against any keyword. Now, if you use a tool like Seller.Tools, which I'll cover a few times throughout this course, you can actually see the score that Amazon gives you based on a number percentage. Amazon actually ranks your listing against each keyword to decide whether to rank you for a PPC key term and whether to rank you at all organically. That's why it's so crucial and important for you as a seller to make sure that your listing has the correct and most relevant keywords in the listing. Like SEO, your job is really to ensure that your listing shows up for the most relevant and targeted searches that are related to your product. Now, doing your keyword research up front is crucial to understanding your competition, the landscape, and ultimately how best to market your product in PPC, giveaways, and everything in between. All right, so now that you understand the importance of keyword research, let's go ahead and dive into the tools that we'll be using to conduct this research. There are a variety of different tools available at your disposal. In the handout that I'll be attaching, I've included some free and paid ones in the crafting guide. In these slides, I'm going to cover the ones that I personally found to be most valuable. First up is Keyword Inspector. Now, this tool has been around for ages and is updated quite frequently. Really, the beauty of this tool is that you're able to get the search results for competitors ASIN. I typically have 2 to 3 top competitors that I try to target, and I'll use Keyword Inspector to plug their data in and export all their information. It's called a reverse ASIN search. What's cool is that it allows me to view which keywords this specific ASIN or competitor is ranking for, what their rank is for that keyword, and so on. So keep in mind that this tool can give you a ton of results, a lot of which aren't necessarily relevant, so it's really on you to scour through and prune those keywords for maximum relevancy, which can at times be quite tedious. Now, the next tool that I harp on a lot is Seller.Tools. This really is a favorite of mine because it makes the keyword research and tracking super easy. Seller.Tools is amazing because it pulls actual data from Amazon so you can get actual search volume, not just estimates. Unlike all other keyword research tools, that is huge. More importantly, it also pulls how Amazon ranks your listing against the keywords that you're tracking for. It's very important. Having that data is very important for long-term optimization, more of which I'll cover in the optimization module. This is probably the most expensive option of this entire list, but I personally think that the data that you pull from Seller.Tools is worth it in of itself, simply because it's not estimated search volume, unlike all the other tools. It's actual real data that they're pulling from Amazon, which is really unique to their platform. The next tool that I want to touch on is Merchant Word. So this is a pretty well-known tool. It's one of the cheaper options. It's about $10 a month, and it's very affordable. And you can look at this as kind of a Google keyword planner for Amazon sellers. So it's a pretty fantastic paid tool. You can pull a bunch of different keyword data from different marketplaces, and it's really organized in an efficient manner. It also has estimated search volume, and is also one of the tools that you can use to pull keywords. The next one is called Seller.Tools, and we also have Google Keyword Planner here. I've included them because both of these tools are free. I personally do not use Sonar tools for the reason that the exports aren't very user friendly. But if you're looking for something that's free, Sonar tools is definitely a great option. And Google Keyword Planner, of course, that is also free as well. I would say the thing about the Google Keyword Planner is that it's more focused on searches as opposed to purchases. And that's kind of the distinction between Amazon searches versus Google searches. One is for information, not necessarily having buying intent. Amazon searches have far more buying intent, which is why having real actual data is so crucial. But the good thing is that they're both free. So, there are a ton of options for you. I personally found, at least for keyword research, that a combination of at least 3 of these tools to be enough to give me data in which I can then compile a primary and secondary keyword research list. And I'll touch more on that later in the section. In terms of deduplication and copywriting, I'll also touch on this, but these are a couple tools that I use pretty religiously. Helium 10 is a decent tool. It's quite expensive, but it gives you an entire suite of tools, and it's great for deduplicating keywords. It's great for finding how to best optimize your keywords, and it's pretty good. Text Mechanic and ASIN tools, these are both tools that have similar functions to Helium 10, which is a comprehensive suite, but these two are free options and alternatives to Helium 10, so definitely something to consider. Now that I've introduced you to the sources that you can use to compile your list in Excel, you'll notice once you've compiled that list that you'll literally come up and have hundreds if not thousands of different suggested keywords spit out by these tools. It's a lot, and again, it can be super tedious. So what you'll find is that, first off, there's going to be duplicates, so make sure you use those tools that I've designated in the slide before to deduplicate keywords, to make sure that you don't have repeating keywords throughout. Once you've kind of finalized that list and compiled all those sources into one, I found that the easiest way to go about it is to split the keywords into 2 types of keywords. The first type is what I call primary keywords, or what I also like to call top 10 or top 15 keywords, although you're not just limited to the top 10, it just helps you to prioritize. And these essentially are keywords that describe the core product, its identification and description. So let's use this example that I've listed here, fitness ball. So an example of primary keywords that would be relevant would be like gymnastic ball or balance ball chair or yoga ball. These are keywords that tend to be the exact description of your product. And they're the most important keywords you want to prioritize when you're optimizing for keywords. These keywords also tend to have higher competition and also higher search volume. So, these are the keywords that you'll constantly be referring back to and prioritizing when writing your copy. And you want to make sure that you're peppering this throughout your title, your bullets, and your description. Now, secondary keywords are the second set of keywords, which are often longer tail and more broad or general. So let's go off the same example of the fitness ball. So an example of a secondary keyword for a fitness ball might be something like sports equipment, yellow fitness ball, fitness equipment. These are essentially keywords that might incorporate specific details like quantity, size, and shape. And they're either more specific or more broad and less targeted, but still relevant. And so these tend to be keywords that are easier for you to rank for, but definitely have less sales volume. And so where you'd enter these keywords is into the backend search terms or the subject matter field. And these tend to be longer tail and less competitive. So it's still very important, and it's great for generating traffic and additional traffic. But again, the primary keywords are the ones that you want to target. So having them broken out into these 2 definitely makes it helpful for you to organize. Now, the thing to remember here, once you have your primary and secondary list of keywords, is that unless you're using a tool like Seller Tools, really the keywords that you compiled are purely guesses. So what I like to do is I like to verify the search volume. And so this gives us a better sense of the validity of these keywords. And the way we do this is we can actually use Amazon's database to give us, and search suggestions to give us a better sense of whether customers are actually searching for the product or not. So if you look at the image right there below, you'll notice I plug in Yoga Ball, and it gives me a bunch of suggestions. So I'm sure you've utilized Google search and it pops up a bunch of suggestions. It works in a similar fashion. So the theory is that the higher the suggestion is, the more volume there is. So in this sense, let's say Yoga Ball has the highest search volume, Yoga Ball chairs for the office has the second highest, yoga ball chair has the third highest, and so forth. So it keeps going down in that direction. And that would make sense because Amazon wants to make it easy for customers to find the exact search that they're looking for so that someone can make a conversion and purchase from them. Now, that's one way to verify it. So if I find that one of the primary keywords doesn't show up here and that there isn't a suggestion for that keyword, that's kind of a red flag to me. And that's something that I would take into consideration when I'm condensing those my final keyword list. The other alternative, and I touched on this earlier, is Seller Tools. Again, Seller Tools looks at actual search volume, and on the right you can see an example of Seller Tools, but you can see that you can look at broad impressions, exact impressions, and this is the relevancy score that I'm talking about, and I'll touch on this in the walkthrough, but essentially you can use this relevancy score, and this is how Amazon grades you for that specific keyword. And what it does is Seller Tools gives you a TSI. So this is an algorithm that they use that takes into account impressions, search volume, and also relevancy score to give you an idea of which ones you want to rank for. And then it gives you a suggestion as to how much you need to give away to rank for the top. And as you can see on the far right, it also shows you whether or not you're indexed for that keyword. So, I find Seller Tools is awesome for doing that, and I'll also use that in conjunction with Amazon's autocomplete feature. All right, so let's tie this together all step by step. Number one, what we want to do is we want to find the top 3 competitor ASINs. So I like to get these ASINs and then I will plug them into a tool like Keyword Inspector or Seller Tools to basically pull keywords that our competitors are ranked for and add that to my list of keywords. Then I'll also conduct keyword research from 2 or 3 other sources that I've listed earlier, let's say Merchant Words, Sonar Tools, or Google Keywords. And I do that by entering variations of the keywords. An example of a variation would be like exercise ball, yoga ball, fitness ball, and finding the results that they push out and then compiling all those results all in one document. And then number 4, I take all the results from those various different sources, compile it into one massive list, and then I'd go ahead and number 5, deduplicate that list using a tool like Helium 10 or ASIN tools or one of the other tools that was mentioned. And then number 6, what I do is I would then cull through that deduplicated list and then find the primary keywords that I would identify as the most relevant, most targeted to my listing, and then split them from the secondary keywords, which are broader or more long tail keywords that aren't necessarily super targeted, but still very relevant to my listing. And then finally, number 7, I would go ahead and cross-reference my primary keywords, or let's say my top 50 keywords, against the autocomplete or auto-suggest function in Amazon to verify that there actually is search volume. And if I want to get actual real data, I can go ahead and plug those keywords into Seller Tools as well to immediately see whether there is actual search volume. And that's what will land you to number 8, which is getting a finalized list of keywords. Okay, now that I've reviewed step by step how we go through from keyword research all the way to finalizing a final list of keywords, let's go ahead and put this into practice. I don't think there's any better way to learn than to actually see someone do it from square one. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay guys, so now we're at the Amazon homepage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through what it's like to basically start doing keyword research and nail down how to build a list of primary research keywords. Now, we're going to use exercise balls as an example. I of course want to preface this by saying we do not recommend using exercise balls. It is probably one of the most played out products out there, but because there's a lot of volume, we can use it as an example of how we would approach building a list of primary and secondary keywords using a lot of the tools that we mentioned. Now, I'm going to touch on some tools here. Again, I've listed a bunch for you. You can use all of them. Really, there's no defined specific way of putting together a list. Our approach here is we want to basically find our top competitors. We want to pull keywords from their listings. We also want to use Merchant Words or use tools like Merchant Words to identify multiple different kinds of keywords to go after. And then we're going to try to compile a list together to ultimately come down to a final list that we can sort through. And even then, when we have that big list, and it's going to be a big ass list, we're going to try to compile and sift through that as much as possible so we can have a very relevant list of keywords that'll then guide our listing and our copy going forward. So let's go ahead and get started doing it. So what I like to first start off doing is, if I have in mind, I know exercise ball is that keyword. There's yoga ball, fitness ball. I'm going to start off by going there. Let's first go with exercise ball, okay? So I'm going to type in exercise ball, And you can see right here, there's obviously search volume, right? There's a lot of search volume here. And you can use Amazon's search suggestions to basically find or confirm whether or not there is search volume. So we can tell, based off of that being the first suggestion, that's what's gonna show up. What I like to do here is I like to basically first find the listings that are doing the most successful, so I can use their listings as a guide for the keywords that I will be implementing in my own listing. All right, so we're gonna identify the top one. So there's obviously this one, Urban Fit, and it's taking a while. Okay, cool. Urban Fit, we have Trideer. We also have, I would say probably the best one after that is Live Infinitely. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and click through into these 3 best performing ones based off of Jungle Scout's revenue estimates, and I'll open it up into new tabs. So I have them here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to copy the competitors into basically, and copy their ASINs into a sheet or somewhere on record so that I can then run searches on those listings, make sure I have it on track, and I can also always have it on reference. So what I like to do now that I have the ASIN is I'm gonna take those ASINs and plug them into Keyword Inspector. Now remember, I mentioned earlier, Keyword Inspector is an awesome tool that we can use to basically run a reverse ASIN search on a competitor's product. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to enter that ASIN, and I can enter it 3 at a time. I'm gonna do that. I'm going to plug them in here. And then I'm gonna say, I wanna do the USA extensive. There's a bunch of different kinds of searches you can do. Some have more keywords, some have less, and you have to pay on a credit basis. And so this is just pay per use basically. I'll click start reverse ASIN search. I've actually already pulled those searches. And when you get those searches, you can just pull them up here and look at the completed ones. Since I've already pulled them up, I'm going to pull them up now. So here you can see these are the two that I pulled. You know, in some cases you may find that, you know, the reverse ASIN isn't going to work on a specific ASIN, and I find that happens sometimes with ASINs that have a lot of variations. Either way, I think 2 is a good place to start getting our competitors' keyword information. So the reason why I like reverse ASIN is because you can see that these are the keyword phrases that pop up. And this essentially shows me all of the keywords that this particular ASIN is pulled up. So they're gonna pull up a lot. In this instance, let's see. Yeah, they're 232, which is actually not the worst I've seen. And here you can see ASIN keyword position. So Keyword Inspector actually is able to tell you where this project is ranked for specific keywords, okay? And there's an Amazon estimated search volume. I don't think this is necessarily the most accurate. Seller Tools is the most accurate for this. I don't usually base it off of that. I like to look at where the top guys are ranked. And then we also have individual unique words. So these are unique words that they will split apart and say, okay, well, it's not duplicated throughout. I like to keep the phrases initially so I can identify the top primary phrases that I want to target. But either way, what we're going to do is we're going to compile these into a single list. So I'm just going to make this my competitor keyword list. Okay, and I'm going to delete this row here so that we have it all in one. Okay, cool. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just rename this right now. I'm just going to say this is competitor keyword reverse ASIN. Okay, I'm going to save that. And now let's go ahead and use merchant words. So let's close this down. So really, again, going back to it, what we're trying to do here is we are trying to create a compiled list of keywords that we're pulling. And we want as much data as possible to start, and then we'll start pruning. So now let's go into merchant words. Okay, so I am going to start searching. Now, when I go back to my competitor keyword reverse ASIN, I like to look at where they're ranked in, let's say, the top 5, because I think that gives me a best sense of relevancy of the top keywords that make the most sense. So we have, you know, stability ball, sitting ball, yoga ball, balance ball, yoga ball. It's clear what the direction is that we're going. So now I know what kind of searches to pull into merchant words. Okay, so let's go back. So let's try stability ball. Okay, so we'll search here. Okay, stability ball. Now I have these searches. I'm going to download the CSV. And again, my goal is to compile, and I'm going to type in, what's another one? Let's see, stability ball, balance ball. Okay, so balance ball. Next. Okay, pull that up. So we'll download that CSV. Okay, and then we're gonna get, I think we did stability, we're gonna do, I think it was exercise ball, let's just make sure. Yep, exercise ball. Okay, and we'll just start with that. But really, you can understand that our goal here is we're trying to get as many variations of different types of searches for this type of product. And Merchant Words is going to spit out a bunch of suggestions, and we're going to get literally maybe even in the thousands of keywords, which can kind of become a pain, but that's okay. Our goal is to sort through them. So I'm just opening all of them right now. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing. So I had another tab open here. This is where it gets a little tricky. It's okay. We're going to copy and paste it in the second sheet. All right. Now I'm going to close this one. No. Next. All right, let's copy and paste here. Come on, please. Okay, there we go. Nice, close that. I'm not gonna keep that clipboard. Seems like my computer is struggling a bit. Okay, there we go. Nice. All right, cool. Now we have a nice, very long list of keywords. Okay, so what do you do from here? Now we have a bunch of keywords. We pulled it from a ton of different sources. And now you have to remember that a lot of these keywords, because we pulled them from different search options, we're gonna have repeating keywords. So this is where we go back to basically we'll go to use a deduplicator tool, okay? Now I believe the one I had provided for you guys, it's not ASIN tools, I think it's, I have to look. Okay, so the tool we're gonna be using for this one is gonna be Text Mechanic. And I've actually never used Text Mechanic before. I personally like using a tool like Helium 10. Either way, let's just give it a try. I think these tools are relatively interchangeable. So what this is gonna do is gonna remove duplicate lines, okay? So let's see, let's give this a try. So we're going to take our list and let's go ahead and I think we have it already in here. And we can copy here. Nice. Now let's go ahead and remove duplicate lines. Okay, so only 29 lines were removed. Okay, interesting. Okay, so what we can do is now that we have those duplicate lines, we still have quite a few keywords. Let's add this. This is our new compiled list. And again, we have quite a few keywords. Okay. Okay, so now that we have this list of keywords, let's go ahead and just filter based off of the ones with the highest search volume. And typically the ones with the highest search volume are gonna be the most relevant, and I like to use this as the primary keyword list. So I'm just gonna keep scrolling through until I find keywords that just don't really make sense, okay? So we'll just keep going down. So far it's pretty much made sense. Cat exercise ball. So you know what, let's just make this easier for ourselves. So we're going to go to, let's just make the cutoff, let's say 5,000 in searches, okay? So what this means is I'm going to limit myself and try to make these my primary keywords. So let's go ahead and turn this into primary keywords. Okay, and these are the ones with what I found to be the highest search volume, okay? And then now we have the rest of them, and maybe I can even make it easier by, okay, now we have these. I'll just bold them for now. And these are the ones that are probably secondary and have a lot of keywords that aren't necessarily ultimately relevant. Now, in secondary keywords, phrasing doesn't really matter. And what I mean by that is the maintenance of the phrases does not matter. So let's say exercise ball, I could put exercise beach body, and then put ball. And as long as those are on the back end keywords, exercise and ball can be pulled together and it would index for those two words. Now on the front end, that's a little more difficult. We've found anecdotally that if you bundle together phrases, that tends to make a bigger difference, which is why we like to separate them between primary and secondary. Now in the secondary, what we'll do is and this is the biggest list, right? What we'll go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and then actually deduplicate those keywords. So I'm gonna go ahead and use Helium 10 because I do think that their tool is easier for this kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and log in, and we're gonna go ahead and do their keyword processor. So this is for our secondary list of keywords. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add only spaces. Remember, there's no commas for all the secondary keywords. Remove duplicates. We do not need to maintain phrases for the secondary. And let's see, we want to remove common words, remove single letters, and remove single words. Okay, let's do that. All right, now we're gonna process, and boom, there's a lot of stuff to go through. So this is a super, super strenuous process, guys. You are probably gonna find that a lot of these words are not actually relevant, which is actually fine. So we'll just go ahead and put these into a doc, okay? And these are all unique secondary keywords, okay? Okay, now we put them in here. So your job really is to go through, sift through, and actually find if any of these are relevant. And we want to remove everything that is irrelevant in here. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the trouble of actually going through line by line with you. I will show you what the finished product looks like after I actually go through and do it. But this is what we have as our secondary list of unique keywords. Now let's go ahead and do the same for our primary. Remember, we want to keep the phrases in our primary. Okay, so let's go through. We got the primary. This is probably going to be a little easier. There are less keywords. And what we're going to do is we're going to add them here, and we want to maintain phrases. Okay, so let's process this. And we're going to remove duplicates. Actually, let's do one word / phrase per line. There we go. That makes it easier. Okay, cool. All right, now we can go back, and our keyword primary phrase is here. So primary keyword list. That's a lot. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. Okay. So what you're going to notice as you go through this primary keyword list is there are a lot of things that might be not relevant. This is going to be a really tedious process. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we're going to have to remove all the irrelevant keywords that can be made up through a simple word. So let's say in this instance, exercise ball set. Not necessarily, we don't necessarily need to have set in there, or exercise ball chair, or exercise ball cap. Those are things that are not necessary. Really, the key word here is going to be exercise ball. So we're going to keep that. New balance ball, no, we're not going to keep that. Let's see, balance ball, we'll keep that. Exercise ball cap, don't need that. New balance ball cap, and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip until we get through to the final primary and secondary keywords. Awesome, guys. Now that we've gotten a chance to walk through how we can create a primary and secondary keyword list, I'm going to give you an assignment. I want you to create your own primary and secondary keyword list. You can keep them in an Excel file, in a Word file. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure you keep them on hand for every single SKU that you create going forward. Having it on your hand available to you is going to be so easy for you later down the line. So I want you to go ahead and start at the end of this video. Follow our process, use all our step-by-steps, make sure you get that list, keep that list handy, and it'll come in very good use in the future in the next couple videos. All right, guys, that was it for this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below or in the Facebook group. I hope you found this helpful. Otherwise, keep making moves, and I'll see you in the next lesson.